Hi everybody, welcome to Technique Tuesday from Creative Scrapbooker, where we get to share with you all kinds of really fun tips and tricks, things that will make your paper crafting experience even more fun. So today I'm going to share with you this beautiful background that I have used in my card, and all these wonderful bubbles that I have incorporated over top the frame to give you a card that is going to surprise somebody that you love. And you can see that I have used this background on the inside of my card, on the outside of my card, and on the inside of my card, because I like them to go, ooh, ah, when they get a card. But guess what? We can also make a scrapbook page. This is when you are paper crafting, what you do if you make a card, if you decide to take the paper and leave it flat and you add photos, it becomes a scrapbook page. So let's take that background that I used and let's get started and show you how to use it. I'm going to be using from Sukiniko VersaColor's their pigment ink line. I'm going to be using Narcissus, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Old Rose, Celadon, and of course their black pigment ink. Love, love, love pigment ink because it is a multitasker, can recreate so many different mediums. We also will be using from Sukiniko Stays On pigment ink, which I absolutely love as well. It is a Stays On that is more pigment based, therefore it has more light fast capabilities, which means it stays more true over time. Got myself a piece of Superstock. Love. If you don't know what Superstock is, check the store on Creative Scrapbooker's website. It is 130-pound paper that is good on both sides. What you do on one side doesn't affect the other side. So we can do this really quickly. I'm going to be using these Lavinia Stamps, and they are bubbles. I think they're called bubbles. I'm not too sure, but they're three sizes of wonderful bubbles that we're going to play with. And I am going to start creating by simply stamping, good old stamping. So I'm going to ink up my stamp, and I'm going to just create a line of images. I'm starting up about 1/3 of the way on the page, and all I'm going to do is ink each time and stamp. Overlap. Don't overthink this. Going from one end of the paper, make sure that you start before the paper and end after the paper so that your project has a natural flow. I want to see some on the scrap paper that is in behind here. For this one here, I'm going to choose one of my blending brushes. We have a billion. And I'm going to take this, and because pigment ink stays wet longer, there's superfluous ink on top of this.
Superfluous. Say that again.
Superfluous. Oh yes, and Jackie's right in front of me.
I love that word.
It's a fun word. Look at how we can add more color by just redistributing that ink that was still open, not dry, okay, and create a line of color. Of course, we can pick up some more with our brush and add a little bit more here and there where you want it. This blends beautifully. Absolutely beautifully using your blending brushes, whichever ones you're using. Next color we're going to take is the Old Rose. Take the medium size bubble, and I just re-inked this stamp pad before we started playing with it, and I can tell just by the way the ink is distributing on the paper. And again, such an easy thing to do. Ink your stamp, stamp it on the paper. And again, you're going to get one of your blending brushes, because I don't know if you can see the glisten okay, on that page, that means it's still wet. If we applied an embossing powder, that wet ink would grab the embossing powder so we could heat emboss it. But we're not doing that with it today. We're going to pull that color and blend those colors together. When you're thinking about pigment ink, think oil paint. Oil paint is the most, oil paint stays open so that you can blend them together to create new colors, and that's what's happening along this line here. They're blending together. You can go back with your original, I forgot the color we're using, Celadon here, and just simply blend that into them so there's no harsh stop and start marks on the page. They're flowing into each other beautifully. So now I'm going to take the last of the bubbles that comes on this Lavinia set, okay, and it is the little tiny one, and I am going to use the last color. Drag some of this light yellow, pale yellow ink down into the old rose color, creating new colors. That's how quick it is to create this background. So now this is open, you can see the sheen, okay? So you can allow this to air dry or to dry it quickly. Your heat gun it won't heat it through. You need to heat this with an iron. Okay, so if I want this to be dry right now, which I'm going to go and do, I'm simply going to take it to my iron station. I'm going to throw a piece of paper towel over this, and I'm going to iron it with a hot, dry iron and dry this. So dry this right away. It is good to go. So we're back from my ironing station. This is totally dry. Okay, and feels nice and warm to the touches. There we go, 3 clean stamps, and now we're going to use Stays On pigment. I love Stays On pigment. It gives some tooth on the page. It dries so quickly, and it is an ink that you can use on glossy paper and on acetate. It will dry on those types of paper. When you have to get the reinker, because you need to add a bit of ink to the stamp pad whenever you open it to ink. It is the nature of the beast, and so you don't need a lot. See those little drops? That's enough. Okay. Just to wake up that pad, and you're going to take, I have my business card here. So something, it could be a piece of acetate. I'm using my business card. And I'm just applying that evenly over the surface. There we go. And now what we're going to do is take those stamps, and we're going to, and you're going to see this beautiful white image on top. Oh, look at this. Oh my, oh, now we're going to drop it. There you go. How nice is that? When you can take those white images, kind of slows the background down a little bit, which I love. Gives it an airy feel. Go beyond, and notice that I like to stamp in groups. And you're just going to ink and stamp and ink and stamp until you like the way your background looks. That's all you're going to do. There we go. Now this I could do more, but here you go. You can see the end result here, and the only difference that I've done on this background page is I have edged the page using a marker. I used 2 colors. I drew out the Dusty Rose color, and I drew out the Celadon color, and I simply added an edge. Mine are straight, did with the ruler, but for this one, what I might do is show you how to do it crooked on purpose. All right, so get yourself your ruler. I like to use a ruler with a beveled edge. The beveled edge faces the project so that when I pull it away, the edge is raised above the paper. It won't draw my ink. And let me see, I'm going to go with this nice coral color on the outside. This is a brush tip. When you use a brush tip, you want to lay it down and just pull it towards you like that. Do not use a brush tip straight up like this. If it's up and down, you're going to smoosh that the top of the pen, and you won't be happy with it when you go to color again. So you're using your brush tip in a way that's going to preserve that brush tip for coloring purposes. So take your favorite brush marker, lay it. You'll notice that I am really just pulling it. Can you see how it's laying flat on the paper instead of straight up and down? So that is just drawing it along the line. And that finishes up that scrapbook page, just gives it and pulls it all together. And I can also, on this page here, I use my ruler to just add a little fine line on the inside with my writing end of my marker. Or if you don't want to do that, you do crook it on purpose. Just have some fun, bubbles dance. So pull, squiggle, and there you go. So crook it on purpose is fun. And this is a great thing, again, to teach newcomers so they don't have to worry about being so precise. There you go. If you want, you can add some little hashtag effects here and there, wherever you feel like adding a few little indent marks, and you have created the beginning of a stunning background page. Here we are, and we are about to create these bubbles that I have used. I have die cut out to embellish my page, and what I've done is I've used my StazOn pigment ink here to simply stamp the bubbles onto the vellum. Look how beautifully it dries, and when you run your finger over it, it actually has some texture because of that pigment ink. Then all you need to do is to die cut out the bubbles. I have used my circle die cuts to cut out my bubbles. Notice that on the white you can just barely see it, but as soon as you put it on your page, it begins to pop. You can pop it a little bit more by dry embossing from the back side of the dots a white line. To dry emboss a line on the back of your bubbles so that they pop, you want to get it's a soft but firm surface. This is a leather pad. You could use a piece of suede. You could find something that's got some stability. This is a Pergamano pad that comes from the people at Ecstasy Craft. Has a very cushy side, and it also, the back side is just the piece of leather itself. It's not vinyl, it is leather. And what you can do is, from the back side, you're just going to take your dry embossing stylus and pop this by going all the way around. Not sure if on the camera that you can see how it is pulling the edge up. It's basically curving the edges. And it is such a beautiful way it does two things. It gives more dimension to your bubble, and it also, over time, when the vellum is exposed to humidity, the edges tend to curl up. By doing this on the back of that bubble, you can see how white that line got all the way around. Can you see the difference? You want to get your most narrowest, I also have trouble saying narrow, piece of Zugwang tape. And what you're going to do is we are going to make an adhesive log with this tape. So you are going to get a length of this tape and you want to put this onto a non-stick surface. So here I have a mat underneath my stamping surface, and it is a non-stick surface. So I can apply my tape to this side and I can take off the release paper, and with clean fingers, might be a good idea, but mine are okay, with clean fingers. Do you see how I'm rolling it into a rope? And it's basically a very flexible rope of adhesive that is so easy to apply. And you're going to apply it on that white embossed line, which is opaque, by the way. It takes it removes the translucent properties of the vellum right on the spot. And I'm just gonna go around it twice. Boom, boom, boom. Give it lots of stickable area. And just roll that around. I'm just gonna keep going because I don't know where my scissors are right now. And then that is going to start my bubble happiness. So, beautiful way to take some bubbles, 3 gorgeous bubbles available to you from Lavinia Stamps. Use your pigmenting colors that are light fast and will provide this gorgeous color for years to come. It will look like this 40 years from now because of the pigment quality. And of course, using that amazing StazOn pigment ink to stamp white images on top to give that ethereal look that you wanted for your card or your scrapbook page. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you take your stamps out and give this a whirl. I know you'll love it. Happy stamping, everyone. From myself, Cathie Allan, and Creative Scrapbooker Magazine. Bye.